6 Best Day Trips in France, Explore France Part 1. For more than 2 decades, France has reigned as the world's most popular tourist destination, receiving 82 million foreign tourists annual. People from all over the world are drawn to France's sophisticated culture, dazzling landmarks, exquisite cuisine, fine wines, romantic chateaux, and picturesque countryside. 6 Provence in one-day tour from Avignon. You can easily spend weeks, months, or even years exploring Provence, just ask author Peter Mayle. Unfortunately, most visitors don't have that luxury, in which case this day tour covers the highlights of this charming province. This tour carries 8 passengers in a minivan through the scenic French countryside. The first stop will be the Pont du Gard, a Roman aqueduct that dates to the 1st century. The highest of all elevated Roman aqueducts, the Pont du Gard also is considered a work of art as it is one of the most beautiful Roman structures in the region. The 3-story aqueduct spans the Garden River. Next up is the medieval village of Les Baux de Provence that was carved out of limestone. The village is in the mountains with a ruined castle that overlooks the Luberon Plains. Explore the village, perhaps looking for that perfect French bistro for a typical country lunch on your own. Next on the agenda is Saint Remy de Provence en les Antiques that is composed of a triumphal arch and funeral monument. The triumphal arch dates to 20 AD and commemorates Caesar's conquest of the Gauls. The mausoleum, which dates back to 20 BC, contains effigies of 2 members of the Gallo-Roman family Gilli. The monuments mark the entrance to the ancient town of Glanum. Nearby is the asylum where the post-impressionist painter Vincent van Gogh was institutionalized. On the way back to Avignon, you'll travel the Luberon, scene of Peter Mayle's books about life in Provence, and stop in the picturesque medieval villages of Gordes and Roussillon. The tour's final stop is the Lavender Museum at Castellet for a lesson in growing lavender and traditions associated with this colorful plant. This fragrant plant is a Provence favorite. The flowers are used in diverse ways, including soap, perfume, and sachets. 5-day trip from Paris to the Loire Valley Castles. France is known for its gorgeous chateaux or castles. This full-day tour to the Loire Valley from Paris gives you an opportunity to see how the rich and famous of their day, i.e., the French aristocracy, lived. The aristocracy of yesteryear may have traveled between Paris and their chateaux in a gilded horse-drawn coach. You, however, will travel in today's comfortable minivan to 3 of the most beautiful chateaux in France, Chambord, Cheverny, and Chenonceau. Your first stop will be Chambord Castle, the largest chateau in the Loire Valley. Hunting lodges never looked like this. Yet, that is what Chambord started out as, a hunting lodge for King Francis I. Somehow it evolved into a prime example of French Renaissance architecture. Leonardo da Vinci reportedly helped design the castle's lush interiors. During World War II, art from the Louvre Museum in Paris was stored here. This riverside castle boasts an interior spiral staircase that leads to a rooftop terrace. Château de Cheverny, famous for its beautiful furnishings, is the next stop. If you're a fan of Tintin, you may already be aware of this castle, though not realize it. Cheverny was the inspiration for Tintin's Marlinspike Hall. The exterior of this stately 16th-century castle is more subdued than Chambord. Cheverny is, however, said to be the best preserved castle in France. Inside this stone structure, you'll find portraits painted by 16th to 17th century artists, a collection of weapons used in the day and a library with 2,000 antique books. Château de Chenonceau is gorgeous in its simplicity as it spans the river Cher. Not only it is unique because you can boat under the castle, it's also unique because it was, after a couple of centuries, administered by women, beginning with Diane de Poitiers who received it as a gift for being the king's mistress. After Versailles, Chenonceau is the most visited châteaux in France. 4-day trip from Paris to Normandy D-Day beaches. If your father, grandfather, or great-grandfather fought in the European theater, particularly France, in World War II, then this is a tour you won't want to miss. This day trip from Paris takes you to the beaches of Normandy for the greatest invasion of the war, an invasion that was the turning point in the war against Nazi Germany. D-Day, June 6, 1944, saw more than 160,000 Allied troops, carried by 5,000 ships, land along a 50-mile stretch of beaches in Normandy. It was a bloody day in history, with at least 10,000 Allied troops and another 4,000 to 6,000 Germans dying on the battlefields. Your tour begins in Paris with a drive through the French countryside to Normandy. The first stop will be the Scene Memorial with its films and illustrative materials about World War II and especially D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in history. You'll have lunch at Scene before heading off to Pointe du Hoc, a site defended by the Germans and captured by the Americans. The next stop is the American Cemetery and Memorial at Saint-Laurent-sur-Mer. Nearly 10,000 American soldiers are buried here with acres of white crosses marking the final resting place. The cemetery overlooks Omaha Beach, one of the major landing and battle zones. You'll have free time to walk on the beach here or visit the visitor center to learn more about battle involving Americans. You'll drive along Gold Beach, the center of the 5 beach invasions that was assigned to the British Army. The final tour stop is Juno Beach, where you'll visit the Canadian Memorial. The Canadian military was responsible for taking this beach. You'll also visit Arromanches, an artificial harbor the Allies made for troop landings over the next few months. This harbor was towed over from England and was named Port Winston in honor of Winston Churchill, the wartime British Prime Minister.